Hello, in this video, I'm going to talk about the brain benefits of exercise. I'm primarily going to focus on brain-derived neurotrophic factor, that's BDNF, and I'll also talk about exercise recommendations for maximizing your BDNF. All right, so physiological changes that happen in the brain in response to physical exercise. So we have production of growth factors and neurotrophins. So neurotrophins are nervous system growth factors. So they're molecules that are in the brain that we secrete in different parts of the brain that help our synapses to grow, that help our new neurons to grow, that helps plasticity and changing of how the brain connects and how we think, how we remember. So they play a significant role in our memory, our ability to learn, our ability to form new pathways. So the goal is to produce more neurotrophins because that is going to help in our neurogenesis. And it also helps to slow neurodegeneration or even prevent neurodegeneration from happening. So there are lots of different neurotrophins, but the one that is the most studied, maybe it's the most relevant, the most produced, the most important, hard to say because we haven't studied all of them to as great of an extent. But the one with the most research is brain-derived neurotrophic factor, so BDNF. So the specific effects of BDNF is what I'm listing here. So it's implicated in synaptic plasticity. So our ability for our synapses to change and grow and sort of for our synapses to rewire in the brain and neural adaptations in the brain that underlie cognitive function. Okay, so it's really important for changing and uplifting cognitive function and preventing degeneration. So it enhances learning, memory, and all sorts of different cognitive functions. It modulates personality traits. It decreases depression. It attenuates age-associated decline in cognitive function. So we can actually work against the normal age-related decline. So it's considered normal for cognitive function to gradually decline with age, but that doesn't have to happen. We can work against that by secreting more BDNF, which we do by exercising. So exercise, in addition to all the countless other health benefits in the body, also is going to help keep the brain sharper, improve the memory, and reduce those age-related declines. It also is implicated in preventing or slowing at least neurodegeneration, like you see in dementia, Alzheimer's, Huntington's disease. So there needs to be more research, and it's not that kind of cut and dry, but it does appear that chronic exercise, so an ongoing exercise program where you are secreting a lot of BDNF over time, that it does delay the onset of diseases like Alzheimer's and Huntington's disease. It also attenuates the effects of chronic stress on cognition and memory. So chronic stress has been demonstrated to impair memory and cause problems in cognition that are cumulative and do degenerate over time. But BDNF works against that. So when we layer BDNF on top of that chronic stress, so even if that chronic stress is still present, BDNF works against those declines, works against the problems that it causes with cognition and memory. So clearly BDNF is important. We want to produce as much as we can. So then the question is, what kind of exercise and how much do we need to cause that improvement? So the exercise recommendations to optimize your BDNF. So first, a single session of exercise immediately increases BDNF in the blood. Okay, so even just one workout is going to have a benefit for BDNF. Long-term training amplifies the post-exercise levels of BDNF. Okay, so it's like if you just work out once, you'll have an increase in BDNF. But long-term training where you're working out multiple times a week over months leads to more than just the sum of the BDNF from each workout. It's amplified. So you get more BDNF than simply just what you would secrete after each individual session. So long-term training programs where you really are sticking with it and you're working out every week and achieving the minimum threshold to secrete enough BDNF over time is going to optimize your BDNF. Now, what type of exercise? Aerobic exercise has been found to have a greater effect than strength training, but strength training also has been demonstrated to increase BDNF, just not to as great of a level as aerobic exercise. And in long-term training programs, aerobic exercise has more of that amplification effect on BDNF, whereas strength training, it's more like, here's the BDNF you produce in response to this training session, and that's it for each training session. So in strength training, it has less of that amplification over time. And in aerobic exercise, it has more. You produce more in each session and it's amplified over time. 30 minutes appears to be the minimum threshold for significant BDNF production. So BDNF is still produced at shorter durations, but the most significant effect is happening at 30 minutes. So from the literature, it appears that duration is more important than intensity. So it's better to go for a longer period of time at a lower intensity than it is to go for a shorter period of time at a higher intensity when it comes to BDNF. So there are other reasons we might vary our training that way. But if the goal is to produce as much BDNF as possible, then we want to get to at least 30 minutes per session, regardless of intensity. So BDNF is produced even at a low intensity, like gardening activities. If it's done for a long enough period of time, then that's going to produce BDNF. At a more moderate intensity, that's more optimal for producing BDNF. So you want to aim for moderate intensity for at least 30 minutes, and at least moderate intensity. Vigorous is even better. So the optimal FITT variables for producing BDNF, so FITT meaning frequency, intensity, time, and type. If we're optimizing our BDNF, then we want 2 or 3 sessions a week over a lifetime, right? So this isn't a short-term thing. This is something we do forever, but 2 or 3 sessions a week at least a moderate intensity for at least 30 minutes per session of aerobic exercise. So that's optimal. Now, again, you'll also produce BDNF with strength training and with shorter durations and with lesser intensity. But if we want to optimize our BDNF, then this is the threshold that we want to reach. So more sessions would be better, more intensity would be better, more duration would be better. But this is kind of the optimal threshold that we want to reach at a minimum. All right. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.